Hello, hello. Welcome to our podcast. I'm excited once again to have Grant Goad with Statewide Mortgage. I am Kristie DeMarakis with LPT Realty, and today we're just going to kind of wing it. We're going to talk
Love it.
about just all things of what we're seeing in the market right now. I'm going to start off with I'm seeing a lot of bad hot water heaters.
Is that a Florida
Uh,
thing? Is that a Florida thing? We're
Yes,
hard on them here in Florida, I think.
I know we are. Everyone seems to have a old hot water heater or a leaky hot water heater.
No, no.
So those are the things that I'm seeing right now. Just
I won't comment. I
excited.
won't comment on it what mine looks like right now. So
Yeah. So let's just talk about what we're seeing in the market, everything from insurance to buyer seller market, negotiations on my part, what I'm seeing. Let's just start with you, Grant. Let's
sure.
just say, how's the market? How
Yeah.
are
So,
rates?
yeah, obviously I was going to go straight to interest rates because that's typically the first question um, people give me or ask me when I pick up the phone, hey, what are your rates? That's the typical first question. Which is a good question. It's fair because they're higher than what they've been in the last, 5 or 6 years. But I think they are becoming more normalized, right? The 6 to 6.5% range rates are not as scary as they were 2 years ago when we were starting to see these inflated interest rates. So, as usual, the typical response is, look, rates are going to follow inflation and the 10-year bond market. So, as long as inflation is where it is, you're not going to see mortgage rates drop significantly. And then obviously you have economic factors like the conflicts overseas in the Middle East. Those are going to affect our interest rates too because it affects the overall economy. So right now we've seen rates. They had a real good dip from February to March, lower, and then obviously when the conflict started happening overseas, we saw rates start climbing back up into the mid six range. And when I say mid six range, that's like your cookie cutter conventional loan, right, across the board. Obviously, rates are determined mostly by your credit score and your type of loan, the loan program, and other compensating factors. But when we're speaking in terms of just generalness, you can search, hey, where are mortgage rates today? You're going to see 6 to 6.5 right now, which it's better than we've been in the last year. And if we can kind of settle everything in our economy, which that's not up to us, obviously. I would imagine rates could probably get to low sixes to high fives, if we can start figuring out some of these things out overseas. So, but as the time being, most conversation I'm having is just say, hey, expect rates in the mid sixes. If you can expect there and we plan for your budget in that range, then you're not surprised, you're not disappointed when I go to quote you a rate. So
Yeah, and the good thing is, bad for sellers, good for buyers, is that prices have dropped.
yes.
We before we got on the podcast, we were talking about appraisals and how some of them aren't coming back at list price or purchase price, contract price. So that's helping some of our buyers as well, obviously depending on, how much that home has dropped and how that factors in. But that's good overall because I can't tell you how many times when I get an out-of-state buyer and I start sending them homes to review and they're like, wow, like what I could get up here in Ohio,
Yeah.
I could get for X dollars. So yeah, we know if you want to live in paradise, if you want to live in
Pay the
warm
price.
weather, you're gonna pay a little bit more. But that's true, I think, with anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
in life, right?
Yeah.
So, as I always educate my buyers is get fixed on the monthly payment
Mhm.
and just throw everything else away. Don't get
Yeah.
stressed and bothered by all the other fluffy things. Just really think about what that monthly payment is going to be for you. And that's where Grant steps in to be able to help buyers to say with insurance, with property taxes, this is what your monthly payment's going to be and be okay with that at that point.
Right. Yeah, that's something we work with immediately, right? That's the first conversation we have is, okay, how much money do you have to bring towards this purchase? And truly, what is in your budget right now that makes sense monthly payment wise? We don't want to go over that. We don't want to max you out. We want to make sure it's comfortable, either what you're paying now, or if you've had more income coming in lately and you think you can increase that, well then let's go up to that range and see what purchase price makes sense for you. And a lot of folks are scared about, home prices falling because that means home values are falling. In my opinion, I think that's a healthy thing for our market right now is to dial back a little bit because we were on, I mean, unsustainable increase of home values, right? Which is amazing if you currently own a home and you're trying to pull out equity and use that for other things. That's great. However, at that pace, we're basically pricing out a whole generation of buyers that can't get in where current rates are with the prices. So, in my opinion, I don't know if that's across the board. I'm okay with prices dropping. I'm okay with values dropping. Um, as long as we don't have a full-on crash, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't see in the future at all. But if we can have some correction, we might have to go through some painful low appraisals coming up soon as if we're in the industry and we're under contract. But I think that's a normal healing thing that, especially our market here in Florida, probably needs. So that doesn't scare me way too much.
Yeah, so some of the things that at least I'm seeing from a sales standpoint representing sellers, just to kind of educate our buyers who are listening, is as a seller, you need to make sure that when that buyer walks in the home, that everything's done.
Mhm.
Because here in Florida, because prices are higher, interest rates are higher, a lot of buyers don't have money to come in and fix things,
True.
so it needs to be, not saying that you need to paint the walls or anything like that, but all your major four items, your
Yeah.
hot water heater, your electrical, your plumbing, your roof, all of those big ticket items are in proper order for that buyer because we're leaning more on a balanced, at least here in Tampa Bay. And I know other markets around the state of Florida, they're already in a buyer's market. We can't say that yet here in Tampa Bay, but we're more
Just
at
shifting. Yeah.
kind of an even market. And because of that, you do have some more negotiation powers as a buyer, but that's basically taking money out of the seller's pocket because when a buyer comes in and wants to negotiate all these repairs, honestly, it probably is cheaper for the seller to have just done those things
Just
prior
do
to
it.
listing, right? So, that's,
It doesn't bog down the process either, right? Because the buyer's
yeah,
going to go to inspection. They're going to do that 4-point inspection that you just mentioned and look at the HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and the roof. And obviously, if those are out of whack or something's wrong, insurance isn't going to cover the home. So it's going to slow down the process regardless. So you might
yeah.
as well, you're right, take care of it up front.
Yeah, so some things to kind of, if you're thinking about putting your house on the market, some of the things to think about, or even during your showing, a loose toilet, shake your toilet. If it's
Yeah.
loose, it's going to fail. Not that you can do this during a showing, but when you take your electrical panel, take the first layer of it off. If you see a double tap in there, I'm running across that a lot right now.
Yeah.
And my sellers are like, well, I bought my house 3 years ago. Why didn't that show up then? I don't know. Maybe it was the inspector who missed it. I'm not really sure. But, something simple like that. Not that I want you to get electrocuted, folks.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah,
an
don't dig too much
electrician
in
do
there. Don't
that,
don't
right?
dig too much into the electrical panel. Just look at it. How about
Um,
that?
but something simple as taking that cover off and you can see it, that it's
Yeah.
a double tap. And then also a hot water heater, 17 years or older, is very difficult to get insurance on it.
Yeah.
With the caveat that if it's 17 years or older in the garage versus inside the house,
Yeah.
some insurance companies will insure it. But start looking at all of your major systems. Same with a roof as well. If it's over 17, very difficult to
Very
get
difficult.
insurance if you
Very.
can,
Yeah.
with that older roof. And as Grant said, all that stuff bogs you down. You
Mhm.
know, if you've got a 30-day close and these major systems have to be repaired, replaced, that could extend. And then it's a domino effect, right? Because you can't move forward with your next house, but the buyer on their previous home or current home, they have buyers, and
Yeah.
those people might have buyers.
That's right.
So it just makes the process, very difficult. So run through your house before you list and make sure you've got that curb appeal. Make sure there are no holes in the walls.
Yeah.
Anything that is just gonna make a buyer go, oh, wow,
Yeah.
bummer. We've got to fix that after closing. Or, okay, we'll just ask them for $5,000
Right.
off to repair
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Y-
I mean, that's typically what happens, right? In
Yeah,
your world, it's like even if it's a small something that probably costs a lot less, the buyers are going to ask for a credit to cover that.
yeah.
So it's something that, if it doesn't come to mind during the inspections or through the walkthroughs, like why not go ahead and take care of it? So that's a good point.
Yeah, because on that repairs addendum, if you have a really good buyer's agent, they're going to put on there that it's got to be done by somebody licensed, professional. And those guys are not cheap. To get an
No.
AC person out is not cheap,
Yep.
you know. So I even had for one of my listings, the siding on the house had gotten nicked
Yep.
by the weed eater.
Yep.
And so that's a red flag for a FHA appraisal. And they wanted somebody licensed to come do the siding.
Exciting. Yeah.
So my seller was like, okay, I get the hot water heater. I get that needs to be by somebody licensed
Sure.
professional. But I can run to Home Depot and get,
Yeah.
well, okay, well, just give us a $2,000 credit. $2,000 is like two pieces of siding, So that's my point. My
Yeah, those are
point
the games
is,
that get played, right? That's exactly right.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 And you're leaving money on the table as a seller. So just save yourself some headaches and just do a walkthrough. Have
Yeah.
your next door neighbor come
That's
through.
a good
Hey,
idea. Yeah.
critique my house if
Yeah.
you were
Or
a
father-in-law.
buyer. Yeah, exactly. Or better yet, call your listing agent,
There
say
you go.
they
That's
should
probably the
call.
best call you can make right there.
Call me.
Yeah, that's
Call
right.
me. I'll come and walk through your house for you. So since we're already dabbling in the insurance realm, so what are you seeing on your side? Because,
Yeah.
we're in the same business, but you see different things than I may see. So
Yeah.
what are you seeing insurance wise?
So insurance, honestly, we've been seeing an improvement over the last several months as far as premiums, right? Here in Florida, and this is if you're listening and you're out of state, Florida is just a different animal when it comes to insurance because we're surrounded by water, obviously. We've got, natural disasters like hurricanes to factor in. There's also those nasty things called sinkholes that we don't talk about too much, that we don't like to talk about. But all these things makes Florida a different animal. But I will say, of all the scares of hey, insurance premiums are going through the roof, we've been seeing them come down, and they're a lot more reasonable, especially if you get these 4-point inspections done and they're clean. Specifically, let's talk about roofs. On that 4-point inspection, it's going to detail how the roof is structured, what type of fasteners and clips are in that roof. All those little details that you could do prior to close or prior to listing a house to improve your roof could really help get this thing sold and have your buyer in a really good position to close quicker if all these things are done. So obviously we talked about water heater. That's something that's relatively cheap to replace, and that can go a long way with insurance premium. Your air conditioner and then obviously electrical, but the roof specifically, we've seen the most benefits if that is in good shape to get a good insurance premium for that buyer coming up. Or even if even if someone that you're not ready to sell, that can truly improve your insurance premium if you do take the proper steps to secure the roof and get it updated to where insurance companies want them to be. So overall, I'd say insurance premiums I've seen come down. The premiums are, especially for newer builds, the premiums are very, very affordable. So new build homes, I mean, you can get for your standard new build home, we're seeing premiums under $1,000 a year for new build homes. That's not out of the normal. And I've seen some even lower than that, like $500 to $800 premium a year for a new build home. That's pretty good, right? So I like that change overall. Obviously, I'm going to caveat everything with if we have another named storm coming up here in the fall that could change things. But knock on wood, right now we didn't have any major hurricanes here in Florida this last year, so I think
Yeah, I
that
didn't
kind
have
of
any rain, let alone a
yeah, no
storm.
rain. Yeah, I haven't even. There's like no rain. We're in a drought, which I don't know if we've ever been in a drought since I've lived in Florida. But anyway, so yeah, overall, I think it's in good shape, a good healthy shape right now, and premiums that I've seen have been coming down.
Yeah, and the reason why the premiums for new builds is because the efficiency, right?
Absolutely.
So the hurricane impact windows, all the things you were talking about, the roofs, the clips, the ties, all the things that a roof may have. All of those things are reasons why the premiums are typically,
Yep.
less with, a new build. So that's something to take into consideration, budget wise, if your numbers are close, because that does affect what your monthly mortgage payment is going to be.
Yeah, let's quote
So,
early, right? That's, anytime we're working with a buyer, we want to just thinking about someone that purchasing a home, get that quote early. Like if you're interested in a house, like work with an agent, and we know several, Chris and I do that, will do this. Work with an agent that'll work up a quote even before we're under contract. Because that helps you, it helps us even get your budget in line. It helps even Chrissy know what inspections, what to look for in the inspections. If we can already have an insurance agent say, hey, on the county website, I'm looking at this as far as the roof age, as far as the last permanent roof, we can kind of see those details before we even buy this home. So it's very helpful to start early on those things.
yeah, so if a seller is listening to this conversation and they know their roof is 17 plus years old, just remember that there's a lot of roofing companies out there that will allow you to pay at closing. So let's just say the roof is going to cost you 12 grand to put on. If the roof is older than 17, let's say it's 20 years old, no insurance company is going to touch it, and that means you're going to have to take only cash offers.
Yeah.
However, that cash offer would come from somebody unwilling or willing, I should say, to not have insurance.
Right.
And how many people out there are going to purchase, their the most expensive thing they own and not have
Not
insurance?
insurance. Right.
Highly unlikely, not impossible, but highly unlikely. So just something to think about. If you're putting your home up for sale, there's lots of roofing companies, at least here in Tampa Bay, that will allow you to pay at closing, which would be super helpful to open up the door for more opportunities for different offers.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and that's, I've run across that so many times. So I want to talk, last thing I want to touch on is about, because it kind of runs into inspections and things. So you've got conventional appraisal, you've got FHA appraisal, and you've got a VA appraisal. And all of those appraisals can be, I guess I can say, different in what they're looking for. So, for instance, a VA and an FHA appraisal, they're not only looking for the value of the home to make sure that you as a buyer purchasing the home that you're purchasing a home at what the contract price is, right? Um, but some of the things that could be red flags as you're doing your showings of a home that may be flagged with an appraisal to say that needs to be
Be repaired. Right.
repaired or
Right.
replaced.
Yeah. So VA, obviously your VA and FHA are a little bit different. VA has their own panel of appraisers and they handle the appraisal themselves. FHA a little bit more strict on certain things as far as condition. They'll be more nitpicky on, some of the holes in the sheetrock and stuff like that that seems like minor cosmetic, but typically they'll want those if it's a FHA backed loan. then they'll want some stuff. They could have the appraisal when we get the report, it'll say subject to the following repairs instead of as is, which means, hey, property as is this value, or we'll have the report say subject to at this value. So the value might be fine, but then they'll have a caveat that says subject to the following repairs. Hey, replace that siding that you were talking about earlier. That siding is hazardous or whatever, could let moisture in. They might see a hole in the garage ceiling. That's one common one that I've seen lately is Florida garages will kind of seep and bubble up and then there's a hole there. So sometimes they want those replaced or patched. So those are minor things, but it's just one more thing that as a seller you could kind of stay ahead of that and say, let's go ahead and have a drywall guy, patch these up, get this, squeaky clean. That way we don't slow the appraisal down when the time comes. So conventional, you're going to have a little bit less strictness, but still those things can still pop up on conventional appraisals. And I've seen some conventional appraisals that, are subject to certain repairs, especially if it's a key component of the house, like those four major things that we talked about.
Yeah, so when you're thinking about VA and FHA and you're doing your showing and you're walking through the house and you're looking, I always say don't look just straight ahead. Look up, down,
Look
side
up,
to
look down.
side as you're going through the house like this is safety.
Hmm.
If it's a safety issue, it's probably going to be flagged by an appraiser.
Yeah.
And that's going to need to be fixed prior. Even if your inspector
Hmm.
says, oh, yeah, it's fine, no big deal, or maybe they miss it, that appraiser may, like Grant said, may flag it on the appraisal to say that condition needs to be met prior to closing.
Correct.
Some other things that would be red flags is the windows don't open and close, or, back in the 60s when you had those cranked windows and they go up and down like this. If that crank doesn't work, that's a safety issue because if there's ever a
Screen.
fire, you
Screens on
can't.
Windows, I've seen that be a condition for, hey, you're missing, five of the 10 screens in these windows.
Yeah,
Um, so if there's screens in some, but not on all, that technically is a flag. So
yeah. And even for VA banisters, maybe it's a mobile home and you've got a step down.
steps, yep.
The banisters are too wide. So
No
last thing we
handrails.
want. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So things like that, as a seller, don't be surprised if it, shows up and be like, oh my gosh, this is totally ridiculous. I can't believe that this came back. It's all because of safety.
Yep.
And especially with veterans, they want to make sure that, the VA, they want to make sure that the VAs are taken care of, the veterans are taken care
Right.
of as a safety issue, which, safety first, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just some things, it's very exciting to walk through a house and get really excited about it and just look at the layout and look at the carpet and look at the kitchen and then have that inspection come back and go, wow, how did we miss all that when we were at the showing? So really take the time, slow down, look through the home so that you kind of know one, what to base your offer on, but two, what might be flagged when you have that inspection? Can you live with it? Is it something that you're like, yeah, we'll fix that after closing, or something that would halt the deal to
Mhm.
say we can't move forward unless these items? Because I have had it where sellers are like, I don't really care that this hot water heater is 17 years old. I'm not fixing it. I'll just find another buyer.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
That makes Christy sad. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that's right. That makes me sad. But more importantly,
Yeah. It could be,
everybody's
it's preventable.
invested.
Yeah, it's preventable. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's invested. We're all on the same, even on the opposite side,
Yeah.
everybody wants to get to the closing table, but
Right.
sometimes it's not about emotions, it's about financing,
Right.
but
Sometimes.
have the conversations, whether you're a seller or your buyer, with your agent, because there might be workarounds, even if it's a financial thing that you can't repair something. Let's have the conversation instead of just axing the deal, instead of trying to really get to the closing table.
I like
And
it.
by the way, the other thing I want to add is not only in real estate, but also the great thing that's happened in Florida is car insurance has also gone down.
Yeah, we could let's do a car insurance podcast. You want to do that?
Yes, I
We'll
don't know
ask one of
anything
our
about
insurance
it.
agent buddies. Yeah, I don't either. So I just drive and pay
I
my
just drive it and
bill.
stay out of accidents, and then
Hey,
I
but
don't need to know anything.
I'm sure that's part of it, though. Why homeowners premium is coming down too is it's all kind of coming in balance, and so most of the carriers that insure homes are also insuring cars. So I'm
Yeah.
sure it's all tied together.
Yeah, I just paid my renewal. It was
There you go.
$65 less, so I
There
was
you
very
go.
happy.
Win-win.
Well, thanks, Grant. As always,
Thanks,
I'll
Christy.
have his comment or his contact information in the comments below
Got
so
it.
that if you're in the process of purchasing a home here in Florida, and you also do Texas, right?
I do tech. Yeah, I'm licensed in
Yeah.
Texas as
Yeah.
well.
So if
But
anybody's
statewide, we're
listening,
licensed in other states as well, so I can get you connected to outside of Texas and Florida as well.
yeah. So his contact information will be below. If you have any questions about the process and how it works, it's very simple. Click a button and start it just
That's
that
right.
easily.
That's right. Click a button.
That's all right. And if I can help you in any way here in Tampa Bay, or if you just have questions, reach out to me. My contact information will be below as well. Until next time.